Good afternoon, family. My name is Sam. I'm an addict living here in Orlando, Florida. Thank you, Wolvina. Thanks everybody that has been working so hard to put this together. There's been a lot of great information already presented. And the first person we'd like to introduce for the LGBTQ panel is somebody that I've gotten to know, gratefully through the pandemic. We started working on an NA.LGBTQ focus groups, and we've actually learned a lot from California. And that person is Angel C. He's currently serving on the regional PR committee for Southern California as for the LGBTQ liaison, and he's been in this role since August 2020. So without any further ado, I give you Angel.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Angel C. I'm an addict. Thank you, Sam, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Wolvina, for extending an invitation for our region to participate in this amazing event. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Great. So today I will be sharing with all of you some updates on what we're doing here in Southern California region of Narcotics Anonymous in terms of our LGBTQ outreach efforts. In Southern California, we have a LGBTQ committee. It was established in 2017, which is when our guidelines were approved at the regional level. And at that time, we became a regional standing committee. The purpose of the Southern California Regional Narcotics Anonymous LGBTQ Committee is to provide outreach services to help the LGBTQ suffering addict to feel part of the life-saving fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. In accordance with our traditions, our outreach services will be inclusive of all suffering addicts. Anyone may join us regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. So this means that when we host activities, our audience is everyone, not just LGBTQ members. We do our best to show the newcomer, regardless if they are LGBTQ or not, that there is a place to call home here in Narcotics Anonymous. Our goal is to further NA's primary purpose by providing an LGBTQ voice to and by fostering and mentoring our fellowship's LGBTQ members, participation in H&I, public relations, phone lines, sponsorship behind the walls, our cruise committee, which we have, our youth activities, and websites committees. So essentially what this means is that our goal is to collaborate with other committees to develop.
No, it doesn't.
Although more progress can be made, we have made a significant step forward by actively collaborating with H&I, public relations, and activities. So like Sam mentioned, this past August, I became an active member on our regional PR committee. And that means that I am now bringing forth information between both of these regional committees in hopes that we can move forward with reaching out to the LGBTQ community. Our committee has been very active even during the pandemic. These are some examples of some of the speaker jams that we've held throughout the pandemic with the Zoom platform. We've had an amazing turnout. It's been awesome. Before the pandemic, we normally host 2 events, one in June and one in October. And these events are a time for recovery and celebration to show the newcomer that we can stay clean and have fun. So that brings us to our PR LGBTQ project, which I'm currently working on with our regional committee. Our public relations mission is to share what we do with members of the public so that they will be able to help the addicts they meet find us when they're ready to get help. Establish relationships with groups providing drug addiction services or referrals to the LGBTQ community in Southern California. So prior to my involvement, this has been a steady process, reaching out to the public, building relationships. And, a lot of times it really depends on who's on this committee, right? So it's up to the areas to decide which organizations they are going to reach out to each year. And, now that, being part of the PR committee and having a voice, we're able to work with the areas and our regional community relations coordinator to ensure that we actually make an effort to reach out to LGBT organizations. When we reach out to them, we are sharing with them about Narcotics Anonymous, giving them information about what we do, who we are, how to find us. And we offer to provide a 20 to 25-minute virtual presentation to the organization staff to introduce Narcotics Anonymous and what we can provide for their clients. Depending on their needs, we can then provide free recovery literature, help their clients get to our recovery meetings, and in some cases, help them start meetings in their facilities. We're currently reaching out to organizations as we speak. It's been a slow process, as you can imagine, with your various efforts that you may have experienced. But we're excited. We're keeping track of who we're reaching out to. We've heard a lot of good feedback. Members are excited. There's organizations that maybe they have tried reaching out to before, and so we're following up behind them, and we're also giving support to the areas to connect them with our committee, so that then we can make sure things move forward. As some of you may be aware, PR is also involved in hosting various booths at various events in the public, and so being that we are an LGBTQ committee, we are trying to provide a connection between events that are typically targeted toward the LGBTQ community. So some of you may or may not know, but in various communities around the country, they host what are called pride events. These are celebrations which involve parades, dances, organizations come out and provide information. And so sometimes at these events, we're given an opportunity. We can have a booth there to share with their attendees about Narcotics Anonymous. This has not been consistent over the years, so this is something that's on our agenda that we want to make sure that our areas are monitoring the reopening of certain events here in Southern California. But just because they may not be live, there might be some virtual opportunities. Some Pride events have gone virtual, and so there might be an opportunity there for us to have a plug where we can go and give a 5-minute spiel about Narcotics Anonymous. There are also professional events, city events, conferences, conventions, recovery events that we can get involved in. Right now, we're currently working on an LGBTQ newsletter, which is coming soon. We are anticipating the release in June of 2021. We currently have an ad hoc newsletter committee that meets monthly. And this newsletter will be used as part of our outreach efforts within and outside the fellowship. We've created a Google Group email account for members to submit their stories for submission to the newsletter. Since we don't have any specific NA-approved literature related to LGBTQ topics, this newsletter can be a great resource to share information with the LGBTQ still suffering addict. So when we're collaborating and reaching out to organizations, now we have something tangible in addition to our current IPs. Now we have, if their clients, are LGBTQ and they just don't know if NA is for them, maybe this newsletter, reading the story about someone who may be like them, might just be enough information for them to come to their first meeting. This is the flyer that we created to distribute within the fellowship for members to be made aware of the newsletter. This just recently got approved this last month, and we are working to get this into the hands of all of our area GSRs. Next, we're also working on an LGBTQ meeting directory similar to what you may have with your youth committee meeting directories. Our goal is to have this completed by June of 2021. Areas we're asked to identify, meetings to be included in the directory. Our LGBTQ committee will be responsible for updating the directory as needed. The directory will be posted on the regional website, and this directory will also be used as part of our outreach efforts. And then that brings us to our website. So up until this point, we did not have a web page on our website. And so as of this last month, we now have a web page on the Southern California website where we can put information to share about the committee to members within the fellowship and to the public. We've always had access to the event calendar to post committee meeting information and activities. We're also planning to use the website to post our newsletter. And of course, we'll be continuing to follow the website and activities guidelines that we must follow in terms of what we can post on the website. What can you do? So I know everyone here is from different parts of the country or the world. Maybe you can start by creating an LGBTQ committee in your region. Maybe you can serve as an area liaison, alternate liaison to that LGBTQ committee. You can attend a PR or LGBTQ committee meeting. You can start an LGBTQ meeting, share information about what we're doing with your GSRs. You can attend a PR presentation workshop. You can volunteer during one of our speaker jams and be of service. You can reach out to organizations that provide services to the LGBTQ community. And of course, that leads us to hopefully starting H&I LGBTQ panels to service those particular organizations. If you would like more information about our committee, we do meet the second Saturday of every month on the Zoom platform from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. This is the Zoom ID and password that we're using. All regional committees are meeting on our regional Zoom account. And then, of course, you can join your area PR committee so you can share some of this information and see if there's any projects or initiatives that you may want to start in your area. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Right. Thank you so much. And questions? First question, I see Jamie.
Thank you, Sam. Actually, so I just have one. If you could please put up that last slide so that I can, I'm saving everything I possibly can that has been put in the chat, et cetera, to make sure that we've got a comprehensive, everything that's gone on in the total 7 hours. So I appreciate it.
All right. One, I think the next is Jerome.
Yes. My question is, first I'm gonna say good information and things like that. You had mentioned that it was approved, and I remember the workshop that World was giving about different IPs and things like that. So was that one of them that was approved, or is something else?
We so I'll just provide clarification. We do not have any IPs for LGBTQ members. I believe what you're speaking about, that was one of the things that we were supposed to vote on during the survey, the CAR survey, but that was that did not get approved. So currently we have no literature that's targeted for the LGBTQ addict. So you may or may not know, areas can create information to provide to those local areas. So that's what we're doing as a regional committee, but we will not be able to put, it will not be endorsed by Narcotics Anonymous. It won't go on, no, we can't, say it's NA approved literature because it's not. But hopefully as a committee, hopefully with the help of other regions, this is something that we can maybe vote on in the next CAR survey, get that IP up to the top, but until then, it's just on the shelf.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clearing it up.
Angel, I'll ask a question. So I'm a straight person watching this, or I've never identified as part of the LGBTQ. Some people might not even be familiar with it. We'll just call it LGBTQ thing. What would you say to the addicts that are listening that don't think this has anything to do with them, or that it doesn't really matter in their area? How would you address that question?
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question. We actually, our committee, of course, we've heard this question from a lot of members over time. Of course, it took a while for our committee to be established to begin with. Our committee, we started trying to develop the committee back in 2016, if not even before that. So it was a road, but our message is that all addicts have a place here in Narcotics Anonymous, and so what are we doing as a fellowship to make Narcotics Anonymous more attractive to all addicts? And so if we're ignoring certain populations, if we're not thinking about underserved populations, then we're not doing our job. Just because I'm part of the majority and I'm good, doesn't mean I can't reach out to another community that is being underserved, because we want to foster an environment where everyone feels welcome and that they are welcome, so that's my response. I hope that was good. But of course we all have different personal beliefs, and that's okay. But being of service has taught me that I serve everyone no matter what my personal beliefs are.
Yeah, I have something to add to that as well, Angel. There's many of us in here that also sponsor LGBT and trans people. I'm one of those people. And being able to refer them to special interest meetings, to be able to have something where they see themselves in a story, and just to kind of circle back to Jerome's question, subcommittees are absolutely able to create literature for specific purposes. That's not, it doesn't necessarily go under the approved literature format. It's not going out to the entire fellowship, and it's not being sold. But I'll just end with saying, here in New York, we have, some of you might be familiar with the ballroom community. The Vogue and ballroom, and I had one of my sponsees was with the legendary House of LaBeija. But the point is that he had some real serious challenges with, substance, identifying with members, connecting with meetings, and actually reaching out to ballroom and having tables at balls. Like, balls are actually still happening in person in many cities, Detroit, Florida, Atlanta. Those face-to-face balls are absolutely happening. And so Narcotics Anonymous being able to have table sittings, literature, and to see people like themselves that have gotten clean from those specific substances that impact the gay community, people don't feel like it's important to talk about that during regular recovery meetings. So I'm so grateful to Angel coming on and letting people know that this is absolutely a PR event that impacts Narcotics Anonymous as a whole. It absolutely does. And also, I'm also the mother of an LGBT son. I mean, thank God that, he's not addicted, but the truth is that family members do have, children that are also LGBT that need to kind of understand that there is a place to go and that there are places to connect. So I wanted to just quickly say that before we move on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And it looks like Rod had a question.
Hello. Yes, I'm Rod-O-Matic. I would just like to get the contact information because I am the vice chair of the area in New Jersey, and we do have people from the LGBTQ that would love to get the information so that they can you know, I guess feel a part of. You know what I'm saying? Because with that newsletter can be a very good tool for people that's in recovery, that's in that lifestyle, can identify with others.
So Angel, they want you to put that information back on the screen for the newsletter, and I think also the committee, because also you guys can take a picture of the information if you're able to do that. Take a screenshot of your phone if you weren't able to get that, so that, you know, the committee meets the second Saturday of the month. That's that information. And then the newsletter information he's going to also put back up as well.
That was fast. Can you do it again, please?
Would it also be beneficial if, I don't know if you want to do this, Angel, if you want to put your email in there, and so that way people can, and it's at the bottom of that flyer there, and that way everyone can get additional information as things evolve, if they want to get in contact with you that way.
Yeah, so my number is right here on the bottom of the flyer. And then this Chris P, he's our chair for our committee. So you can give either of us a call. You can also email us at this Google Groups here, NA LGBTQ News, if anyone would like to submit any stories. But if you want to send an email, get more information about our committee, you can send it there as well.
Perfect. Let's leave that up on the screen a little bit.
Awesome.
While we go on and get Douglas, I think, has a question.
Hi, I'm Douglas, an addict. Not necessarily a question, but just Sam, as a follow-up to your question. You know, I'm also straight, but like Velvina, I have a daughter who's 24 years old, and she's identifies with the LGBTQ plus community. I'm also a secretary of an LGBTQ meeting here in Connecticut. And it's very important that they recognize that there exists a stigma and a bias with that community, and that there are those of us that support them regardless, that they're welcome. It should be known that you know, the LGBTQ plus community has the largest incident of suicide of any demographic populist group. My daughter reaches out and works in Long Island at a counseling center to reach to those suicidal patients, and that lends itself right to a very active addiction. So it's a group that really needs the attention and support of Narcotics Anonymous. I think this is a great way forward to let any addict, wherever they are, however they identify, get help, and recognize that we also have to be cognizant of the pronouns. And it's a whole new learning lessons for those of us that aren't members of that community. And this also goes to what I certainly have a very close familiarity with, losing a brother because he was HIV positive. And there was a stigma for that whole part of the community in NA back in the day, and still predominates today.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I would like to add, I mean, you know, it says outreach, and we're thinking about outreach to the LGBTQ community. What I would also say, because I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, is the reverse, meaning that it's outreach within our own fellowship to our straight allies. I cannot tell you how critical you guys have been, just looking at me as a fellow addict and accepting and loving me for who I am. So in other words, whether in my mind, if you identify as part of the LGBTQ community or not, it doesn't matter, because what you guys taught me was, you know, creating safe spaces was actually, this is where I learned it. and to not be afraid of
And,
whether or not we use the right pronoun or not, to still get involved and try. You know, I think that's super important. And you brought up the data and statistics. If you're on PR and, you know, H&I, and you're really trying to target where addicts are, follow the numbers. The data suggests that, you know, the LGBTQ population has rates of, you know, all substance abuse, whether it's marijuana, opioids, or any other substance, that rates 3 times higher than the general population. So in my mind, if I'm wherever I am in Duluth or Lexington, where I'm from, or Orlando, we need to have somebody doing something in the LGBTQ community, because it's a population that is desperately in need of the help and the hope that we actually can provide. So that's why I'm really excited about this conversation being elevated, and there's so many people that are actually listening to this from around the country. It's very exciting. So it looks like we got maybe 1 more minute or 2. Are there any other questions or anything? All right. Thank you so much, Angel, for your presentation and for all of your work. I really appreciate it, both as an addict and as somebody in the LGBTQ community. You're kind of leading the way for our entire country on this, which I think is extraordinary. Thank you very much for Wilbina for putting everything on, and I will pass the floor back to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, you guys. And, you know, I've done work on some virtual conferences with Sam and Angel, creating directories and actually an international website for LGBTQ members. And, you know, I want to just, this is definitely something close to my heart, and I'm so glad that people were tolerant and listening to it. And you know what, I know, just like the other presenters, anyone wants to invite Angel to their subcommittee to do a presentation, I'm sure, you know, he could coordinate his calendar to do that. And I think that, you know, the other thing I just wanted to make a mention of is, you know, that these presentations will all be recorded in short portions, so that actually your subcommittees can go on YouTube, Virtual NA Outreach. You could play part of these presentations at your subcommittee meetings. That's what they're for, and that's how they'll be used. And so please spread the word. So at this time, I'm also really excited to introduce our next presenter. You know, she's from our sister zone, autonomy zone. And actually at the last PR week learning day, they had a 6-hour presentation. I was there for most of that. And really the highlight of that was a video that their subcommittee created. I'll let her explain all of that to you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Ann E. of Chesapeake Potomac region.